What if those 3 seconds of eye contact you thought meant attraction actually meant something completely different? Think about the last time someone looked directly into your eyes and didn't look away. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3. Suddenly, it doesn't feel normal anymore. You start wondering, why are they looking at me? Do they like me? Did I do something? And if you've ever heard that holding eye contact for 3 seconds is a sign someone is attracted to you, you may have believed it without ever questioning it. But here's the problem. There is no universal 3-second rule that tells you someone likes you. In fact, that same 3-second stare could mean attraction. But it could also mean curiosity, confidence, nervousness, intimidation, or something much less flattering. And here's where it gets interesting. Your brain hates uncertainty. When someone's behavior is ambiguous, your mind automatically tries to explain it. They looked at you, so your brain creates a reason why. Maybe they like you. Maybe they're judging you. Maybe they're interested. And sometimes, the story your brain creates has almost nothing to do with what that person actually meant. That's why the stare itself may not be the most important clue. What matters is what happens around it. What were they doing before they looked at you? What did their face do while they were looking? And most importantly, what happened the moment they finally looked away? Because that tiny moment afterward may tell you far more about what those 3 seconds actually meant. There's a reason eye contact can suddenly make an ordinary moment feel different. You can be walking through a room, sitting across from someone, or simply talking to a stranger. Your eyes meet. Nothing unusual. But then, they don't look away. 1 second, then another. And suddenly, you become much more aware of yourself. You start wondering, why are they still looking at me? Do they like me? Are they judging me? Did I do something? That tiny moment creates tension because eye contact feels personal. When someone looks directly at you, you know they're paying attention to you. But when that attention continues longer than expected, something interesting happens. Your brain starts looking for a reason. And here's where things get complicated. Your mind doesn't just register, they're looking at me. It starts creating a story about why they're looking. Maybe they're interested. Maybe they're curious. Maybe they like you. Maybe they don't like you at all. And because you don't have access to their thoughts, your brain has to fill in the gap. That's why a simple stare can suddenly feel like it means something much bigger. A quick glance usually doesn't need an explanation. Someone looks at you because you moved, made a sound, walked into the room, or simply happened to catch their attention. Then they look away. Nothing to analyze. But deliberate eye contact feels different. Imagine someone looks at you, looks away, and then looks back. Or you're speaking to them, your sentence ends, and they continue holding your gaze. Now there's a reason your brain starts paying attention. Something changed. But here's the mistake people make. They assume that because the eye contact was deliberate, it must mean attraction. It doesn't. Deliberate eye contact only tells you one thing. Their attention is on you. It doesn't automatically tell you why. They could be interested in what you're saying. They could be curious about you. They could be nervous and trying to hide it. They could be trying to appear confident. They could be challenging you. Or there could be an emotional connection you haven't noticed yet. And here's the important part. These situations can look surprisingly similar from the outside. So instead of asking, what does 3 seconds of eye contact mean? Ask a better question. What else was happening during those 3 seconds? Was their expression warm or serious? Did they smile? Did they look nervous? Did their body move closer or away? Did they immediately look away? Did they look back? Those tiny details can completely change the meaning. Because eye contact isn't a secret code with one universal answer. It's a signal. And the signal only becomes meaningful when you look at everything surrounding it. which is why the next few seconds may matter more than the 3 seconds themselves. Because if you want to know whether that stare was attraction, curiosity, nervousness, or something else entirely, you need to pay attention to what happens when they finally look away. Number 1. They're attracted to you. Sometimes, the first look means almost nothing. The second look is where things start getting interesting. Imagine you're across the room from someone. Their eyes meet yours. You notice. They look away. A few seconds pass, and then they look back at you. Now you have something worth paying attention to, because that first glance could have been completely accidental. Maybe you happened to move. Maybe something caught their attention. Maybe they were simply looking around the room. But when their attention returns to you, the situation becomes harder to dismiss. Something has drawn their attention back to you. And yes, sometimes that something is attraction. Someone who is attracted to you may become unusually aware of where you are. They might keep noticing you, even when they have no obvious reason to. They look at you from across the room. You catch them. They quickly look away. Maybe they smile. Maybe they suddenly become very interested in their phone. And then, a few seconds later, that pattern can be interesting. But here's the part people often get wrong. None of these behaviors proves attraction by itself. A smile can simply mean friendliness. Looking away can mean shyness. Looking back can mean curiosity. Even nervousness doesn't automatically mean romantic interest. The real clue is whether several signals begin appearing together. Does their attention keep returning to you? Do they seem more nervous, playful, or self-conscious around you? Do they find small reasons to stay near you? Does their expression noticeably change when your eyes meet? And here's one of the most useful questions you can ask. Do they behave differently around you than they do around everyone else? Because attraction usually isn't revealed by one magical 3-second moment. It's revealed by a pattern. Think of it this way. One signal is a possibility. Several consistent signals are a pattern. And the pattern is what you should pay attention to. So if someone locks eyes with you for 3 seconds, don't immediately tell yourself, "They definitely like me." What made their attention return to me, and what are they doing now? Because sometimes, the answer isn't in the eye contact itself. It's in the behavior that follows. And attraction isn't the only reason someone might hold your gaze. In fact, there's another explanation that can look surprisingly similar to attraction, until you notice one small difference. Number 2, they're curious about you. But what if they aren't attracted to you at all? What if they're simply curious? This is one of the easiest possibilities to miss because when someone holds eye contact with us, our minds often jump to the most exciting explanation. Maybe they like me. But sometimes, the explanation is much simpler. Something about you caught their attention. Maybe you're wearing something unusual. Maybe you just walked into a place where nobody knows you. Maybe you said something interesting, laughed unexpectedly, or did something that made them wonder about you. Sometimes, they may even think they recognize you. So they look a little longer, trying to answer a simple question. Where do I know this person from? And here's what makes curiosity different from attraction. Curiosity is usually trying to solve a question. Imagine you walk into a room wearing a jacket nobody has seen before. Someone notices it. They look at you. Your eyes meet. They hold your gaze for a moment, then look away. A few minutes later, they barely seem to notice you anymore. Because they may have already gotten the information they were looking for. The mystery disappeared. And that's one of the easiest ways to distinguish curiosity from something deeper. Remove the mystery and watch what happens. If their attention fades once they've figured out what caught their attention, curiosity becomes a much stronger explanation. But if their attention keeps returning to you, even after the original reason for looking is gone, now the situation becomes more interesting. Because attraction can keep pulling someone's attention back even when there's no obvious question left to answer. Of course, real people don't follow psychological formulas perfectly. Someone can be curious and attracted at the same time. Someone can look at you repeatedly for completely ordinary reasons. And someone who is attracted to you may still avoid eye contact altogether. That's why one stare will never give you the whole answer. Look for the pattern. Do they continue noticing you after the mystery is gone? Do they keep finding reasons to look back? Does their attention repeatedly return to you? Or was it simply one unusual moment that disappeared as quickly as it appeared? Because sometimes, that 3-second stare isn't flirting. It isn't a secret confession. It isn't even a hidden message. It's simply someone's brain saying, "Wait, who is that?" And once they get their answer, the mystery is over. So instead of asking, "Were they attracted to me?" try asking something more useful. What did they notice about me that made them look? That small change in perspective can completely change the way you interpret someone's gaze. But curiosity isn't the only explanation. Sometimes, they're not trying to understand you at all. They're trying to figure out how you're going to react to them. Number 3, they're testing your reaction. Sometimes, the person holding eye contact isn't trying to tell you something. They're trying to find out something about you. Think about what happens when two people lock eyes and neither one looks away. For a moment, there's an unspoken question hanging between them. Who's going to look away first? Neither person says anything. But suddenly, it can feel like a tiny psychological game. This can happen for several reasons. Someone might be flirting and wondering whether you'll play along. They hold your gaze a little longer, waiting to see whether you smile, look away, or continue looking back. Someone else might simply be playful. They notice you've caught them looking, and instead of breaking eye contact, they decide to see what happens. And sometimes, the person may be testing your confidence. They might want to know whether you'll become uncomfortable when they hold your gaze. This doesn't necessarily mean they're trying to dominate you or make you feel intimidated. People can maintain strong eye contact because they're naturally confident, curious, competitive, or simply comfortable with social situations. But here's where the moment becomes interesting. Your reaction becomes part of the conversation. If you immediately look down, the other person gets one piece of information. If you smile, they get another. If you hold their gaze calmly, they get something completely different. And if you look away for a second, then look back, now you've changed the entire interaction. This is why eye contact can sometimes feel almost like a conversation without words. One person makes a move. The other person responds. Then the first person reacts to that response. And suddenly, a 3-second stare has become a tiny exchange of signals. But don't make the mistake of assuming that the person who looks away first has lost. Real life isn't a staring contest. Someone might look away because they're shy. They might be distracted. They might feel awkward. Or they might simply decide the interaction has gone on long enough. The important clue is what happens around the eye contact. If they hold your gaze while smiling, seem relaxed, and continue looking for opportunities to interact with you, there may be a playful or flirtatious element. If their expression becomes serious and they deliberately maintain an intense stare, the meaning could be completely different. And if they seem amused by your reaction, they may simply be enjoying the moment. So the next time someone locks eyes with you, don't just ask, "Why are they looking at me?" Ask something more revealing. What are they waiting for me to do? Because sometimes, the person staring at you isn't giving you the answer. They're waiting for your reaction to reveal it. Number 4, they want you to notice them. Sometimes, eye contact isn't really about watching you. It's about making sure you notice them watching you. And that small difference can completely change the meaning of the moment. Imagine you're sitting in a cafe. Someone across the room looks in your direction. You happen to look up. Your eyes meet. They look away. By itself, that doesn't tell you much. Maybe they were looking around. Maybe you simply caught their attention for a second. But then, a few moments later, and this time, they wait until you notice. That's different. Because now, you know they've noticed you too. It's almost like a silent message. Just, I was looking at you. But that still doesn't automatically mean attraction. They might want to start a conversation. They might recognize you but can't remember where from. They might be curious about you. Or they might simply need to get your attention. And sometimes, eye contact works as a low-risk way of testing the waters. Instead of walking over and risking an awkward rejection, someone can look at you first. If you look back, they get information. If you smile, they get another signal. If you immediately look away, they may decide not to continue. No words are necessary. The two people are already responding to each other. That's why deliberate eye contact can feel almost like a conversation before the conversation has even started. One person looks. The other notices. A reaction happens. And that reaction tells the first person what to do next. Maybe they smile. Maybe they look back again. Maybe they move a little closer. Maybe they finally come over and say something. Or maybe nothing happens at all. And that's important. Eye contact can create an opening without guaranteeing what happens next. So don't focus only on whether someone looked at you. Watch what happens after they realize you've noticed. Do they smile? Do they keep looking? Do they suddenly become nervous? Do they make themselves easier for you to approach? Do they create another opportunity for interaction? Those details tell you much more than a single glance ever could. Because sometimes, eye contact isn't the message. It's the invitation. They're not necessarily saying, I like you. They may simply be saying, notice me. And once you've noticed them, the interaction has a new possibility. But here's where it gets interesting. Sometimes someone can desperately want you to notice them, while being too nervous to do anything about it. Number 5, they feel emotionally connected. Not every intense moment of eye contact is about attraction. Sometimes, it's about connection. Think about the difference between looking into the eyes of a complete stranger and looking into the eyes of someone you genuinely feel comfortable with. The two experiences can feel completely different. With a stranger, prolonged eye contact can feel awkward or even uncomfortable. But with someone you trust, the same few seconds can feel natural. You don't necessarily feel the need to look away. You can simply sit there, look at them, and let the moment continue. That's because emotional connection can make eye contact feel less like being watched and more like being understood. Imagine you're talking to someone about something important. You finish explaining how you feel. Instead of immediately looking at their phone, looking around the room, or changing the subject, they keep looking at you. Their expression is calm. They're listening. They don't seem distracted. That eye contact may not be saying, I'm attracted to you. It may be saying something much simpler. I'm here. I'm listening. This is especially common between people who already know each other well. Close friends, family members, couples, or people who have shared meaningful experiences can sometimes communicate through eye contact without saying much at all. A single look can carry familiarity, comfort, concern, understanding, even affection. And this is why the expression on someone's face matters so much. Eye contact by itself doesn't tell you what someone is feeling, but combine it with their expression, and the picture becomes clearer. A soft smile can make the same 3-second stare feel warm. A concerned expression can make it feel serious. Raised eyebrows might suggest surprise. A relaxed face might simply show comfort. And sometimes, there's almost no expression at all because the person is simply deeply engaged in the moment. Context matters too. If someone looks into your eyes while you're telling them something personal, that's very different from a stranger staring at you from across a room. The situation gives the eye contact its meaning. This is why you shouldn't automatically interpret every long gaze as flirting. Sometimes, someone is simply emotionally present with you. And perhaps that's even more meaningful, because attraction can make someone look at you, but emotional connection can make someone stay. So the next time someone holds your gaze for several seconds, ask yourself what was happening around that moment. Were you sharing something personal? Were you both laughing? Was there an emotional moment? Did their face look warm and familiar rather than nervous or playful? If so, the eye contact may not be a secret signal of attraction at all. It may simply be one person silently communicating, "I understand you." And sometimes, that is the reason someone doesn't look away. Number 6, they're intimidating you or trying to appear confident. Here's where eye contact can become surprisingly easy to misunderstand. Because sometimes, someone looks directly into your eyes for 3 seconds, and they're not attracted to you. They're not flirting. They're not even particularly curious about you. They may simply be showing confidence. Think about a job interview. The interviewer asks you a difficult question. You take a breath, look them in the eyes, and answer without looking away. You're not sending a romantic signal. You're communicating something much simpler. "I'm comfortable with myself." The same thing can happen in everyday conversations. Someone may maintain strong eye contact because they want you to take them seriously. They may be making an important point. They may disagree with you. Or they may simply be the kind of person who naturally feels comfortable with direct eye contact. But sometimes the atmosphere is different. Imagine you're in an argument. The other person stops talking. They look directly at you. And they don't look away. Suddenly, the silence feels heavier. You become aware of where you're standing. Maybe you feel uncomfortable. Maybe even slightly nervous. They haven't said anything, but their gaze has changed the atmosphere. In some situations, prolonged eye contact can be a way of projecting confidence or authority. The unspoken message might be, "I'm not intimidated by you." And sometimes it can feel more like, "Are you intimidated by me?" But don't automatically assume the person is trying to dominate you. They could simply be angry. They could be frustrated. They could be concentrating on what you're saying. Or they could be trying to understand how you'll respond. And this is where people make one of the biggest mistakes with eye contact. They read the eyes while ignoring everything else. The same 3-second stare can mean completely different things depending on the situation. Someone smiling gently while maintaining eye contact during a friendly conversation feels very different from someone staring silently during an argument. Someone with relaxed shoulders and a calm voice gives you a very different impression from someone with a rigid posture, tense expression, and deliberate silence. The eyes are only one part of the signal. You also have to consider their expression, their body language, their tone of voice, your relationship with them, what happened immediately before the eye contact, and what happens immediately afterward. There's another clue worth noticing. How does the interaction feel? Does it feel warm, comfortable, playful, awkward, challenging, uncomfortable? Your feeling isn't proof of what the other person intended, but it can tell you something important about the atmosphere between you. So the next time someone locks eyes with you, don't immediately think, "They must like me." Ask yourself, what is happening around this eye contact? Because sometimes, the person staring at you isn't trying to get closer. They're simply showing you that they're comfortable standing their ground. And here's the strange part. The same 3-second stare can feel completely different depending on who is looking at you and why. Here's the part that can completely change how you interpret eye contact. There is no magic 3-second rule that says, if someone looks at you for 3 seconds, they're attracted to you. 3 seconds isn't a secret code. It's simply a measurement of time. And yet, people often take a single number and turn it into a conclusion. Someone holds your gaze for 3 seconds, and your mind immediately starts creating a story. They like me. But the same 3 seconds could mean curiosity, confidence, recognition, emotional connection, awkwardness, or absolutely nothing. So if duration alone can't tell you what someone's eye contact means, what can? A much better way is to look at 3 simple things. First, what happened immediately before the eye contact? This is where the story begins. Did you just walk into the room? Did you say something? Did you make them laugh? Did you accidentally bump into them? Were you already having a conversation? Did you catch them looking at you from across the room? The event immediately before the eye contact can completely change its meaning. If you just said something funny and they look at you while smiling, that's very different from someone staring at you after an argument. Second, what did their face do during the eye contact? Don't just watch their eyes. Look at the expression surrounding them. Did they smile? Did their eyebrows rise? Did they look nervous? Did their face remain completely serious? Did they seem relaxed? A 3-second stare with a warm smile can feel completely different from a 3-second stare with a tense expression. The eyes tell you they're paying attention. The face gives you clues about the emotion behind that attention. Third, what happened immediately afterward? This may be the most revealing part. Did they quickly look away? Did they smile and look back? Did they continue watching you? Did they suddenly become nervous? Did they walk closer? Did they completely forget about you afterward? The moment after eye contact can tell you whether that 3-second interaction was meaningful or simply temporary. So instead of asking, "What does 3 seconds of eye contact mean?" ask 3 better questions. What happened before? What happened during? What happened after? That's how you stop treating eye contact like a secret code. Because 3 seconds alone doesn't tell you the story. The context does. And once you start paying attention to those 3 moments, you may realize that the most important part of the stare wasn't the 3 seconds at all. It was what happened right after they looked away. Here's where the 3-second stare becomes much more interesting. Because sometimes, the most revealing part isn't the eye contact itself. It's what happens immediately after. Think about it. Someone looks directly at you. You notice. Your eyes meet. They hold your gaze for a few seconds, and then they look away. At that moment, most people stop paying attention. But if you want to understand what that eye contact might have meant, don't stop watching. The first clue is looking away, then looking back. If someone breaks eye contact and then checks you again a few seconds later, their attention may still be focused on you. That doesn't automatically mean attraction. They could be curious, trying to recognize you, or simply wondering whether you're still looking. But that second look is worth noticing because it shows that the interaction didn't completely disappear from their mind. Now consider looking away and smiling. Maybe they smile slightly as soon as your eyes meet. Maybe they look down and smile to themselves. Maybe they turn away while trying not to smile. That can suggest the moment created some kind of positive or emotional reaction. Again, it's not proof of romantic interest. But it's different from someone who looks at you with a completely neutral expression and immediately goes back to whatever they were doing. Then there's looking away suddenly. This can be especially interesting. Someone holds your gaze, realizes you've noticed, and instantly looks somewhere else. That could mean nervousness. It could mean embarrassment. It could mean they didn't expect you to catch them looking. Or it could mean absolutely nothing. That's why you need the rest of the context. Another clue is when they keep watching you without directly looking at you. They may turn their head away but continue following you with their eyes. You might notice them checking on you from the corner of their eye. This suggests their attention may still be on you, even though they've technically broken eye contact. And finally, there's the simplest possibility. They look away and completely ignore you afterward. No second look. No smile. No attempt to interact. They simply return to whatever they were doing. In that situation, The original eye contact may not have carried much meaning at all. So think like a detective. Don't just record the stare. Record the sequence. Look at what happened before. Notice what happened during. And most importantly, watch what happens after. Because the eyes can start the mystery, but the behavior afterward often gives you the strongest clue. After everything we've talked about, there's one important reality check. Sometimes eye contact means almost nothing. And that's actually important to understand. Because once you start learning about body language, there's a temptation to see hidden meanings everywhere. Someone looks at you for 3 seconds. You think they're attracted to you. Someone looks away quickly. You think they're nervous. Someone looks back. You think they're interested. But sometimes, they were simply looking. Imagine you're sitting in a cafe and someone is staring in your direction. You catch their eyes. They don't immediately look away. It feels strangely personal. But what if they weren't really looking at you? Maybe they were thinking about something. Maybe their mind was somewhere completely different. Their eyes happened to be pointed in your direction, but they weren't consciously paying attention to you at all. This happens more often than people realize. People daydream. People get lost in their thoughts. People stare into the distance while thinking about work, relationships, money, or something that happened earlier that day. And sometimes, you're simply standing directly in front of their line of sight. There's another simple explanation. They're scanning the room. When someone enters a new place, they naturally look around. Who's here? Where is the empty seat? Where did that sound come from? Is there someone they recognize? During that process, their eyes will briefly land on different people. And one of those people might be you. You make eye contact. For a moment, it feels meaningful. But it may simply be the result of being in the same room. There are also situations where longer eye contact is completely normal. During a conversation, people naturally look at each other while listening. A teacher might hold eye contact with a student. A waiter might look directly at a customer. A friend might maintain eye contact while telling a story. A person giving a presentation may scan the audience and pause on someone's face. None of these situations automatically indicate attraction, tension, or hidden emotion. This is why you shouldn't turn every glance into a psychological message. One moment of eye contact is evidence of attention, not evidence of intention. To understand someone's intention, you need more than a stare. You need context. You need patterns. You need to notice whether the behavior repeats and whether other signals support the same interpretation. So if someone looks at you for 3 seconds, don't immediately build an entire story around it. Maybe they were interested. Maybe they were curious. Maybe they wanted your attention. Or maybe they were just looking in your direction. And knowing when not to interpret something can be just as important as knowing how to interpret it. Now let's put everything together. Imagine you're sitting somewhere and suddenly someone across the room locks eyes with you. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3. They finally look away. So, what does it mean? At this point, you already know the answer isn't simply, they like you. You have to look at everything surrounding those 3 seconds. Imagine they held your gaze while giving you a small smile. Their body was relaxed, they looked comfortable, and a few seconds later, they looked back at you again. Now the moment starts to look different. There could be attraction. There could be curiosity. There could simply be a desire to connect. Now change the situation. Imagine the same 3-second stare, but this time their face is serious, their body feels tense, and the eye contact happened during an argument. Suddenly, attraction is probably not the first explanation that comes to mind. It could be confidence, disagreement, intimidation, or simply an attempt to understand your reaction. Now imagine another version. They look at you for 3 seconds, quickly look away, smile nervously, and then avoid looking at you again. That creates an entirely different possibility. Maybe they're shy. Maybe they felt embarrassed. Maybe they realized you caught them staring. The important lesson is that one signal rarely tells the whole story. Think of each behavior as one piece of a puzzle. The eye contact is one piece. Their facial expression is another. Their body language is another. And what they do afterward may be one of the biggest pieces of all. When several signals point in the same direction, the interpretation becomes much more convincing. But when the signals contradict each other, it's better to stay uncertain rather than invent an answer. So maybe those 3 seconds weren't a confession. Maybe they weren't a challenge. Maybe they weren't even intentional. But they were an invitation to pay attention. The next time someone holds your gaze, don't immediately ask yourself, do they like me? Instead, watch what happens next. Do they smile? Do they look back? Do they move closer? Do they suddenly become nervous? Or do they simply return to whatever they were doing? Because sometimes, the meaning of those 3 seconds isn't hidden inside the stare itself. It's hidden in the 3 seconds after they look away. And here's something I'd love to know. Have you ever experienced a moment of eye contact that felt like it meant something, but you never found out what? Maybe the next time it happens, you'll notice the clue you missed before. Because the eyes may start the conversation, but what happens afterward might reveal what they were really trying to say.